Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, sat poised and elegant on the set of The View, her smile warm but guarded. She knew this interview would be different from the usual softball questions about her charity work and royal fashion. The air crackled with tension as Whoopi Goldberg, the show's formidable moderator, fixed her with a steely gaze. The interview began cordially enough, with Whoopi praising Meghan's advocacy for women's rights and racial equality. "Meghan, you've been a trailblazer in using your platform to shed light on important issues. How do you balance that activism with your role in the royal family?" Meghan replied thoughtfully, "It's not always easy, Whoopi, but I believe we all have a responsibility to stand up for what's right, no matter our position. I'm fortunate to have a voice, and I want to use it for good." Whoopi nodded, but there was an edge to her voice as she continued. "Speaking of using your voice, you and Prince Harry have been quite vocal about your struggles within the royal family. Some have criticized you for being too open, too willing to air dirty laundry. How do you respond to that?" Meghan paused, choosing her words carefully. "Our intention has never been to embarrass or attack anyone. We're simply telling our truth, sharing our experiences in the hope that it might help others feel less alone." Whoopi leaned forward, her tone sharpening. "But Meghan, you have to understand how it looks. You're accusing the royal family, an institution that's endured for centuries, of racism and cruelty. That's not just telling your truth, that's lobbing a grenade." The audience stirred, a low murmur rippling through the studio. Meghan's smile tightened, but she maintained her composure. "Whoopi, racism and cruelty can exist in any institution, no matter how revered. My husband and I have a duty to speak out against injustice wherever we see it, even within our own family." Whoopi's eyes flashed. "Even if that means damaging the monarchy? Even if it means hurting your own grandmother-in-law, the Queen?" Meghan's voice rose, a note of defiance creeping in. "The monarchy will be strengthened, not damaged, by confronting its biases. And the Queen understands the importance of doing what's right, even when it's difficult." The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing the rising tension. Sunny Hostin tried to steer the conversation to safer ground, asking about Meghan's recent children's book. But Whoopi wasn't finished. "Meghan, you talk a lot about your own pain, your own struggles. But what about the pain you've caused others? What about your father, your sister, the family members you've cut off? Is that doing what's right?" Meghan's composure cracked, a flash of anger crossing her face. "My relationships with my father and sister are personal matters, not fodder for public debate. I've extended olive branches, I've sought reconciliation, but I won't be bullied into silence about my own life." Whoopi scoffed. "Bullied? You think you're being bullied? You're one of the most privileged women in the world, with a platform most people can only dream of. Isn't it a bit rich to cry bullying when you're the one throwing punches?" The audience gasped. Meghan stood abruptly, her cheeks flushed. "Throwing punches? I'm standing up for myself, for my husband, for our child. I'm using my voice to advocate for change, to challenge a system that's long been steeped in bias and bigotry." Whoopi stood too, her voice booming across the studio. "You want to talk about bias? Let's talk about your bias against your own family. Your bias against the institution that gave you a global platform. You're biting the hand that fed you, Meghan, and calling it activism." Meghan's voice shook with fury. "The hand that fed me? The same hand that drove my husband's mother to despair? The same hand that questioned the color of my baby's skin? That hand, Whoopi." The studio fell silent, a collective intake of breath. Whoopi's face hardened. "Oh, so now you're comparing yourself to Diana? You think you're the people's princess, martyred by the big bad monarchy?" Meghan stepped out from behind the table, squaring her shoulders. "I'm not comparing myself to anyone. I'm telling my story, our story. And if that story makes people uncomfortable, if it shines a light on the darkest corners of an ancient institution, then so be it." She turned to the audience, her voice clear and unwavering. "I know many of you have faced your own battles against prejudice, against systems that seek to diminish and silence you. And I want you to know that your voices matter. Your truth matters. Even when it's hard, even when it's painful, keep speaking truth to power." The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. Meghan turned back to Whoopi, her eyes blazing. I came here to have an honest conversation, to build bridges of understanding. But I see now that some would rather burn those bridges than confront hard truths. Whoopi threw up her hands. Hard truths? You wouldn't know truth if it slapped you in your royal face. You're so wrapped up in your own victimhood that you can't see the damage you're doing, the pain you're causing. Meghan shook her head, a sad smile playing on her lips. I see the damage, Whoopi. I see it every day in the racist headlines, the vicious online attacks, the cold shoulder from the family I tried to embrace. But I also see the hope, the possibility for change. And I won't stop fighting for that change, no matter how many bridges I have to burn. With that, she walked off the stage, head high, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. The other hosts scrambled to cut to a commercial break, their faces a mix of shock and awe. Backstage, Meghan's hands shook as the adrenaline drained from her body. Her husband, Prince Harry, was waiting, his face etched with concern. Are you all right, love? That was intense. Meghan let out a long breath. I'm okay. More than okay. I said what needed to be said, even if some don't want to hear it. Harry wrapped her in a tight hug. I'm proud of you. You were magnificent out there, standing up for us, for Archie, for the truth. Meghan leaned into his embrace, drawing strength from his steadfast support. She knew the backlash would be swift and merciless. The tabloids would have a field day, the royal courtiers would be apoplectic, the online trolls would swarm like hungry piranhas. But she also knew, with bone-deep certainty, that she had done the right thing. She had refused to be silenced, refused to let her truth be buried under centuries of tradition and protocol. She was Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. But more than that, she was a woman, a mother, a fighter. And she would keep fighting, keep speaking, keep shining a light into the darkness, no matter the cost. As she and Harry walked out of the studio, hand in hand, she could already hear the first rumblings of the storm to come. The frantic phone calls, the urgent meetings behind palace doors, the scramble to contain the damage. Let them scramble, she thought. Let them try to put out the fires she had lit. She would not be contained, not anymore. She was done being the perfect princess, the silent accessory. She was ready to be the voice of change, the catalyst for a new era. An era where truth trumped tradition, where compassion beat protocol. An era where even the highest institutions were held accountable for their failings, their prejudices. It wouldn't be easy. It would be a long, bruising battle, fought on multiple fronts, in the press, in the palace, in the court of public opinion. But Meghan was ready. She had her truth, her love, her unshakable belief in a better world. And with those weapons, she knew she could face anything, even the fury of a queen. The car pulled away from the curb, carrying the rebel royals into an uncertain future. But Meghan's heart was light, her spirit unbroken. She had started a revolution today, on the set of a daytime talk show. And she knew, with every fiber of her being, that there was no going back. The monarchy would never be the same. The world would never be the same. And that was exactly as it should be. Change was coming, on the winds of a duchess's defiance. And nothing, not centuries of tradition or the disapproval of a billion bystanders, could stop it. Meghan Markle, the unlikely revolutionary, smiled as the car sped through the crowded streets of Manhattan. She was ready for the fight of her life, and she would not rest until she had won. For herself, for her family, for every voice that had been silenced, every truth that had been buried. The revolution had begun, and Meghan Markle was its fearless leader. God save the Queen, she thought wryly, and God help anyone who stood in her way.